Because what I've gotten really confident in knowing is that I have such a unique style and voice. And so
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm easily influenced by other people's styles in that way. And I think it's mostly about um, really being excited for my peers and like seeing what they're up to and kind of like, oh, that cover that Dana did for Time is stunning. And I'm so excited to see that work. Or, Giancarlo, and like, just thinking about the way other artists are working and recognizing like, oh, we all have such distinct, I think, visions right now. And so that is really nice to see. So I don't feel like I'm influenced in that way. It's more about like what's happening, like what are people looking at right now, or how are you shooting this type of person, or I don't know, like someone might have switched into working in color and I've only seen a lot of their black and white work, or so it's more about mood boarding, I think, rather than having any worry or having any feeling that I might be persuaded to do something, but sometimes it just feels like too much visual stimuli. And so about I think I walk away from it when I'm heavily focused on like ideating a new project or wanting to figure out where I want to go with some sort of visual idea or identity of something. So then it's sometimes helpful to be on apps because like, oh, I really like this image and I could pull this element from this image, or I really like the way they used a backdrop here, or I really like the way that this makeup was applied. It can be such small things from like, oh, I love those lashes, to this lighting strategy, or, and it's always coming together. You never know kind of what it will turn into when I am turning it on my own work, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. It's like, I mean, it makes sense. It's just like hearing an element in a song or seeing a palette in a film that sparks something in your own mind that then you kind of take in, but it's still through your own lens and through your own, but I think what you're saying about knowing the self really helps, because I think it's really hard to engage a lot on social media because you're just awash in so many other people's externalized ideas that if you don't have your own, it can be really difficult to stay adrift or like keep your head above that pile.
Or you kind of jump into everyone else's style, which I think if you are like early on and starting out, like, yes, try as many things as possible, and then you figure out what you land on or what feels good. And I think even now I feel like I'm in a place where I experiment a lot more and I'm looser with my own vision, because I think for a while I was very focused on a particular type of aesthetic, and now I'm feeling very comfortable, or the past few years, just feeling really comfortable shaking up my own idea of what it might be or become or might look like. And something, the reason I love photography so much is that I am showing up blind most of the time to the person I'm with or the space that I'm encountering. And so I have to work on the fly in a way that feels really good to me and that keeps it really exciting for me. Which I imagine is similar for you too, showing up to a space and maybe even reporting or even thinking about the landscape that you're in and what herbs are around and how that might influence what you're making or what you're consuming or what you're thinking about in a space.
Definitely. I remember specifically when I was younger and trying to evolve out of just being a reporter into more of a critical thinker and a writer, and feeling really overwhelmed and intimidated by reading other people's work, and like, I'll never have my own style. But after just like, continuing to practice and experiment, and I just trust that I have the tools, like I can just show up and the work will come. And I think I have a lot more patience and grace for myself now to know that, yeah, it's a process and it takes a lot of time. And, you know, I've been working a little bit this week on a collaborative essay with Kimberly Drew, who's my co-editor for Black Futures. And it's so funny because in the doc, I was like, I'm just going to delete like 800 words of my own writing. And she was like, no. And I was like, it's like garbage pasta. I kept saying, I was like, it's just garbage. Like it's word soup. I wrote it knowing it'd probably get deleted, but sometimes it's just getting to the other side. And I think a few years ago, it would have been debilitating to write something so informed in the company of someone whose opinion and mind I really respect. Whereas, you know, like this week, it's very clear to me that this is not the sum yet of what this will be. So it felt okay to just practice in public a little bit.